here's another project here, which is completed long a while ago, but I call it the Calligraphic board game. Anyhow, I'll show you the finished product, and then we'll backtrack to the actual process. And it's hanging now in my living room, along with its distant cousin. I tried to duplicate the original, and sometimes it doesn't work, or sometimes it's better, sometimes it's kind of okay. So let me show the one on top here is Calligraphic board game. So you can see kind of figures of calligraphy, but not like a language that we understand in America, but that's why it became a passion of mine to kind of make my own alphabet, as it were. And the relationship between the colors and the shapes, the forms, and it's all about the process, the design process. And here is the one I tried to do later on, which is similar but very, very different. And the sides are equal octagon. The original is not, of course. But anyhow, let's talk a little bit more. I'm walking through the house. It all started with an assignment in class. I know this is really dark, isn't it? Anyhow, it was a kind of a fascinating thing. They wanted a multimedia project, and I'm trying to remember what the original premise of everything was, but it was anyhow. It was started out. Oh, I know. The class had to do with multimedia stuff, and I was learning techniques and different processes. Pen and ink and different pencils and content crayons and watercolor and all kinds of things. We explored all kinds of media and techniques. So that was great fun. But I was I had never done linoleum block printing before, and so this was totally new to me. But even at that time, I figured, well, I'm gouging stuff out of this rubber mat, and then it's going to get ink put on it and paper pressed on it. So what I'm digging out is the space is not going to get printed. So that was a mind, if you will, and it was a challenge just from the very beginning. But I saved, and here it is. If it's bright enough, I could show it to you. There's a glare. But anyhow, it was fascinating. And you can see, if you remember the original, the calligraphy shapes came from this and pieces of it. I was also in the process of part of the schooling. I was learning about deconstructionism, and that alone is a fascinating concept. It was hard for my instructor to describe, and I'm struggling with it even today. But it's a matter of kind of like, the phrase, the sum of the parts is greater than the whole. It's very much like that. So going back to the linoleum block print, by taking the pieces apart that I printed, and I've long since don't have those pieces of paper, but I printed it on all different colors of paper. I printed construction paper, I believe it was, all different kinds of colors. So I had that to begin with. I had all kinds of colorations to go with it. I washed this off again, put different colored inks. So I had a lot to choose from the very beginning. So then I wasn't really hampered to this exact design. I took this piece, I took a piece of this, I took that, I took this, separated them, and put those together in a different thing altogether, as you recall. So I will, anyhow, there's a lot more about the process, and I will get into it when I dig into my files in the computer. But this is design process 102, and it's called the Calligraphic board game. So we'll see you on the other side when I get my computer fired up. And here are the octagonal pieces in the daylight. This is the original with proper matting, frame and all custom made, and Calligraphic board game. And its more recent cousin. This has a little more 3D to it. The pyramid in the center. I don't know if it's as successful as this one. Just don't know. It's fascinating, the process I went through. So there you go. So this is an estimation of the actual presentation at the gallery, Emmanuel Gallery in the campus of Community College of Denver. Probably 2003. And yeah, I did happen to get a first place in the graphic design category. Anyhow, they had the wisdom to not put this on the wall, but they put it on a plinth, so it actually looked like a board game where you pull your chair up to and you move these characters around. So that was kind of cool. And long ago, I tried to explain the design process in this project. It started out, wasn't thinking about calligraphy. I was just making these shapes on the linoleum block, and the prints came out, and I started cutting apart to deconstruct and put them together in something that made some kind of sense. And then I thought, well, they kind of do look like calligraphy figures in some strange foreign alien language. And then I began doing different colors and relationships. And that was really a strange epiphany. I lost a lot of sleep because I kept imagining all these ways that I could use these little pieces. I originally started out, I pasted these little pieces of colored paper on cardboard and cut the cardboard out. So there was a little bit of 3D to them. And then I duplicated them with I did use gray paper to do the original print. You can see the edges of the north, south, and east, west axes. Compass points there printed out on brown and gray paper, and so those pieces became part of this. And actually, I was traveling on a light rail to get from where I was living back to campus, and I actually folded the corners in. It was originally a square, and I thought, well, why don't I just fold it in? And they're hinges. I could always spread them out when I framed the thing. But then I kind of liked the fact that it wasn't square. All of a sudden it was an octagon, but not a true octagon, and not equal sides, and that I kind of liked that even more. And that's the relationship between the characters. It's a kind of a whole mindset that was very out there in a way, but they do kind of coalesce into the center, the golden temple of all things good and calligraphic.